Delicious.
So I want to take a break from my sort of typical video format and talk a little bit more candidly about something I feel like took me a long time to realize and overcome as a new player to PUBG. This coming from the perspective of a guy who switched to playing PC shooters after over 25 years of console gaming. It's not so much a joke in my videos when I say that I was absolute doo-doo at the game when I first started playing it, but I didn't let it stop me from trying to want to get better. Like I'm sure many of you have done, I spent hours researching tips, watching tutorials, combing through Reddit posts, basically anything and everything I could find to help bridge the gap in my lack of PC shooter skills. But ultimately, one thing was holding me back more than I realized at the time, and even now, it's something I often forget about being an issue at all. And that's confidence. When I say confidence, I'm referring to the ability, as a player, to have both the mechanics and experience to play the game at a proficient level. When I first started playing PUBG, the game was still months away from even teasing at adding training grounds where players could practice shooting and looting, so the advice almost every streamer and high-level player would give us was, hot drop as much as you can until you get better. Unfortunately, this advice is really tough for a lot of people because it doesn't provide a lot of return investment for the amount of time you spend waiting, dropping, and dying just to do it all over again. Which leads to people wanting to land more remote to make the most of their playtime just to ultimately get stomped on mid to late game, due in part to the lack of experience you gain when your gunfights are so few and far between. What really inspired this video was a Reddit post I came across by a player who expressed his struggles with the game and how much difficulty he was experiencing just trying to become a better player. Right away, I started to remember my first several months playing the game and how much of a struggle it was for me as well. As I've mentioned before, the game has much better tools to help with mechanics than it used to, but what this post reminded me of was one of the biggest hurdles for me and maybe other people as well, which was getting over being nervous in gunfights. It probably seems silly to a lot of people who have played the game for any considerable amount of time, but when you're first starting out in a game where one death sends you back to the lobby, you feel like a nervous wreck in hot drops, frantically running around trying not to die. What ultimately cured me of being nervous was the combination of a couple things that no one really explained what happened by repeatedly hot dropping and dying over and over again. One of the biggest things it taught me was to not be afraid of dying. Yes, it sucks spending time to load in, drop, and get blasted in the butt cheeks just to turn around and do it all over again, but what you're gaining is a desensitization to failure. That failure trains you into becoming less frantic and more at ease because you realize that dying really isn't that bad. You get shot, bam, back into the lobby to try it again. When you really start to feel this turnaround is the moment you get your first kill from a hot drop though. Even if you die immediately after, there's this feeling of improvement and a confidence boost go with it. It's sort of like in baseball when you're taking pitches in a batting cage, and the moment you make the smallest amount of contact with the ball, you instantly realize how much more achievable getting a hit becomes. After that, hot drops or any drops in general just feel less intimidating because you know what you're capable of doing and how to do it, and it only gets easier from there. I'll never forget watching live the day Shroud landed at Hacienda, got the greatest landing loot in PUBG history, and got 8 kills in 10 seconds, just wishing I was good enough to do something like that. The problem for me was every time I tried something like that, I either couldn't loot fast enough, or I couldn't control the guns well enough to get any kills. And if those struggles seem familiar to you, that's because those are the exact type of reasons why I started this channel and wanted to make videos about it. Because for me, I know how hard I tried to be better at the game, and in a lot of cases, I definitely worked harder instead of smarter. I learned a lot of stuff the hard way and figured it was worth sharing with other people so maybe the game would be more fun for more players and we could continue to see PUBG grow. So, if any of this applies to you or someone you might play with, be sure to pass it along. Maybe not from me or this video specifically, but let people know that once you get over that sort of stage fright-like nervousness, the game becomes much easier and more enjoyable to play. You'll feel better about getting into gunfights and overall less afraid of not winning them. Even the best players have bad games, so don't let it get you down. Keep plugging away and who knows, one day you might not suck at PUBG anymore. Or you might and make videos about it to try to feel better about yourself. Whichever comes first.